Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Lamont Taylor, owner of GetMeRecrited. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you became a recruiter and a scout?
Yeah, so it was almost like an evolution that happened. I really was a high school basketball coach. I started my own AAU program back in 2003, I think it was. And, I went through the whole process and I coached a lot of great talent, kids that, were D1 level. And then my nephew came through. I moved my nephew in with me when he was in 7th, 8th grade and raised him up as he became more and more popular in the country. The recruiting picked up. He eventually became the number 3 player in his class. He eventually, through a rough recruiting period, we went, being green to the whole recruiting process. At that time, I went through a hard recruiting situation with him because almost every major college in the country wanted him, from Duke to Carolina and so forth. So he went on and, went to Baylor and was a one and done and on to the NBA. But during that process, after he went on to the NBA, I decided I wanted to start a company that informed players and parents and gave them the information to be prepared for that process because I wasn't. And I know how hard it could be if you were not prepared. So at that time, I met a guy by the name of Robert Scruggs. We call him Trey. We were coaching. I had come out of retirement to coach down in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I met him, and we talked about this idea of, this recruiting service and informing parents and so forth. And, the parents pay a fee and we give them the information and guide them through the process, so forth. Well, at that time, August 1st, 2012, GetMeRecrited was launched. Now, within the year or so, we realized we didn't want to charge the parents to pay for the information when these colleges have so much money, and let's let them pay for it. So it was at that time we became more scouting service versus recruiting. So we gathered the information, start our relationships with college coaches, and then relay that information and be the liaison between the college coaches and the kids. So that's how we became a scouting service. We actually started out as a recruiting service, hence the name GetMeRecrited.
How did you know that you wanted to become a scout to help young athletes?
I've always been a give back and been a mentor to kids. I first started coaching middle school kids back in 93, I think it was. So I've always been helping kids. And like I said, when I went through that recruiting process, I knew then, okay, I want to help other people. Now, at that time, I had no idea I would, become this national scout and, kids all over the country would know me. I had no idea of that. But it was my dedication and hard work to being in the gyms and being the best that I could be that it naturally, organically became a national service.
How does it feel to be a national service for recruiters?
It's there's a lot of it can have pressure at times because everyone tugs at your strings and wants your help, and if you can't get to everybody, you feel bad and they feel bad, and but it's really a lot of work. I think people have a perception sometimes that I can start a Twitter or Instagram and look up some articles and talk to some kids and I can be just like him, and it's really a whole lot more to it than that. There's a lot of work that go into it, especially getting around to gyms, because your credibility is what matters in this business. And they're not going to build your credibility unless they've seen you in different gyms and making evaluations of kids everywhere. And right now, I've probably been to 20, 30, some different, states recruiting. So, yeah.
Can you talk about your segment called Courtside Conversation?
Yeah, so it started actually maybe about during the last AAU season. I wanted to talk to the kids, but without setting up a whole setup and so forth. And I said, well, I believe I'm going to go live and stop by the court and just hit them from there. And I started doing it, I think, at Nike Nationals in Chicago, and with my squad in Michigan up there, and so forth, and it went well. So during the pandemic, I said, well, there's no courts to get people courtside, but it'd be a great opportunity to get some real influential people in the business on the show, and it's been great. We've had some really good people. Yeah.
Who are some of the people that you've got on your show before?
Oh, well, we recently just had, I don't want to leave nobody, but I know I'm going to forget people. We recently had Paul Biacardi at ESPN. We had Jason Jordan at Sports Illustrated. We had Lavelle Moulton at North Carolina Central. We had Julian Newman. Everybody knows Julian Newman. We had Overtime Chloe. We had, oh my God, I'm gonna forget his name, and I don't want to say who it is because if I forget, they'll kill me. But we've had quite a few. We've had some inspirational stories of people that are not necessarily famous, but very inspirational and motivational, like the guy who's a paraplegic, that's getting in the Olympics. And so his story was inspirational. So we've had some really great guests over the last 2 months.
How do you find the players or people that you interview? Do you use more social media?
Actually, no. Fortunately, all these people that I've mentioned, I actually know. So to be honest with you, how I find the people is I just look through my phone. I just scroll through and reach out, and luckily so far I think we've had 28, 24, somewhere along in there, guests, and I haven't had anyone yet to tell me no. Oh, I can't forget I had Ninth Wonder, who was a Grammy Award winning producer on 2 weeks ago. So we've had a really great group, and knowing them personally and having that relationship makes it easier for them to want to do for you because I just know them very well. Like Paul Biacardi, I've been knowing him for years. So those type of things are why I'm able to get those interviews in.
Can you talk about the life of a recruiter and a scout, and what's a day-to-day life like?
So depending on what level you're on, if you're just a scout, it's probably a lot of research. You have to know your players. And let's just be honest, a scout cannot be everywhere. They're not going to see everybody. So they have to rely on resources and people to inform them of who they may need to see. They need, inform them of who they think is really well. You got to have reliable sources and credible sources. So, let's talk this way. I may know a guy in Augusta, right? He knows basketball. And he tells me, hey, Lamont, you need to watch this kid, right? That's going to be different levels of priority for me versus, let's say, the coach at North Carolina State, and we're in a conversation, and he says, hey, you seen that kid in Augusta? No. Well, now my urgency to go see that kid is going to be more because the witness is more credible. So that's exactly how it works for college coaches as well. They can't be everywhere. And are they going to listen to some kid on Instagram that says, his friend is good? Or are they going to listen to more credible scouts like myself? So that's exactly how that relationship business works.
What advice would you give upcoming future scouts looking to get into the profession?
I'll tell you immediately, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it's probably going to fail. If you're doing it for money, to pack up and run now, because that will be way, way down the road. If you're doing it for popularity, that's cool, but understand there's a difference in popularity and running a business. So you have to decide on what you want. If you do your business right, the popularity to come. But if you're focusing on the popularity, then your business will suffer. And I'll tell you, I know plenty of people right now, very popular on social media, more popular than I am, but have no business at running for themselves to sustain themselves. And with this business, you're going to have to be in the gyms for your credibility. Remember, we talked about credibility. You can be popular on social media, but don't have the credibility with the people that it matters with, right? So you can be popular to all the kids, all the social media followers of basketball, but is that ultimately going to give you in the doors that you need to get in for your business to be successful? So really understand the difference between being popular and being business motivated. There's a difference.
Can you talk about how you got your first recruit and helped him or her?
So many years ago, and I don't remember, I've been doing it so long that I may not remember the very first one, but I know the feeling. And the story is the same. A kid, that people in, let's say, a small hometown, like myself, right? Like my hometown, where I'm from, Lumberton, North Carolina. Let's just say there, a kid that he's the best player there because he's a small town and they gas his head up and, oh, he's going to be this and that. But I myself, in reality, knows he's okay, but he has a lot of work to do, and he hasn't played against the competition that's out there. And so it's my job to put him in the fire with those kids so he can realize I'm not that great and I need to improve. And then once that happens, I can start to really convince him and his parents on the path they need to take. But a lot of times it's just, again, popularity doesn't mean results, and that happens a lot.
What are some future plans that you wish to achieve in your business?
Well, we have several we're working on. We have several collaborations that I think is going to really take us to another level. We're going to collaborate with some really good people. You'll start seeing us announce those as the season gets back rolling. Also, we're getting in the tournaments more. We have several people we're involved with that we're going to do tournaments and not just exposure camps. Everyone knows us for exposure camps, but now we're about to get into tournaments and expand that brand so you can get that same quality evaluation for your team and not just an individual.
Can you talk about calling coaches when you have exposure camps to get them out there? How is that process like?
So again, it all goes back to nurturing relationships, and if you have the right relationships with the right people, they'll call you and, hey, coach, I got these 3 kids that are special. They need to be in your event. Or if we call them, then it's like, most of them know who we are. The ones that don't, we explain who we are, who've been to our camps, what we provide, because they're more than just rolling the ball out. That's not just what we do. We really concentrate on, the athlete and the information they need to have. Again, remember how I started. It was informing parents and players. So every event we have, a workshop for the parents and the players is mandatory because we're trying to give you the information that you need to be successful.
What advice would you give high school players that might not be D1 players that might have to go to JUCO?
Well, everybody's path is your path. So the number one thing I tell parents, well, players and parents, don't watch someone else and feel like that should be me, or I'm should be able to get the same thing and so forth, because everybody's path is different. It could be totally different, but you end up in the same place. You may feel like you're better than a kid, but and they're getting more than you, but you have to embrace and be thankful for what's coming your way and not rush the process. More and more today, people are trying to rush the process. They're trying to hurry up and get scholarship offers. They're trying to commit early. All of this because they have no patience and they're watching other people. Just continue to do what you need to do, work on your craft, and everything that's supposed to come to you will come to you.
What advice would you give players that aren't receiving as many offers, like in their junior year maybe, and they're like, oh, this player is receiving like 20 offers and I'm over here sitting with one?
Yeah, just like I was saying, it's just you can't. So that one player that they are looking at that has all those offers may have something different that you don't have, and when it's time for you to get what you're getting, you're gonna have something that another kid that thinks he's better than uh, you may have. So again, concentrate on you. Once you put your blinders on, once you're focused on yourself, you won't have time to look at anybody else. They won't matter.
How important are camps for players to get recruited?
It depends. So again, everybody's path is different. Now, were camps like mine, now every camp is not a good camp. I'm not going to, lie to you, because there are some bad camps out there. That's why I work continuously hard to make sure we're going to give you above and beyond what you pay for. We're going to go above and beyond to make sure you get everything and more than you expected. So they're great because let's think of this. You go to a tournament with your team. That's great. Perfect. Y'all win the championship. But at the end of the day, coaches want to see what you do individually. And I tell kids this all the time. Please understand, you can win as many championships as your AAU team can play in. However, there's not a college in the country that recruits teams. They recruit individuals. So you're going to have to, at some point, step away and do some things individually. Also, it gives you the opportunity to step outside of maybe your coach's philosophy or his strategy and be who you are. So sometimes the coach's strategy fits you better, right? Makes you look good. But then you're going to go to these camps and you're going to get exposed because you're not used to doing other things. Let's say if your coach always plays a 2-3 zone and you're the best 2-3 zone player out there. However, college coaches want to see, can you play man to man? And if you don't get that work against high level competition, you're selling yourself short.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
All my social media is the same: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. It's all Get Me Recruited, GetMeRecrited. Get Me Recruited. My name, Lamont Taylor. You can search that. Also, I've moved into another realm of basketball and sports in general, and working with the athlete's mind. So I'm a mental performance coach. I really get athletes on the same page mentally as they are physically, so they can move themselves forward. And there you can find me on my other social media, which is Changing the Game Life Coach. That's my mental performance coach page. So there's another way they can come and check out the things that they need to succeed. We work on our physical all the time, but not our mental. And our mental is just as important as the physical. And you can find that at changingmygame.com.
Thank you again for your interview, Lamont, and best of luck in your future with your business. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Lamont, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you for having me.